Feuchamaich Olde Scot the Celtic podcast. Kimraha Huladunya, how is everyone? On today's show in Feuchamaich Beagan Gaidhlig, that's Let's Try Little Gaelic. Lesson 21, Memory and Other Vocabulary. In Celtic History, The Confessions of Isobel Gowdie, Part 2. In Everyday Celtic Ways, The Problem with Myths and Legends. We're going to hear music from Rachel Walker, Ann Martin, Brigham Phillips, Scone, and Salthouse. I'm replacing Irish trivia temporarily with a new segment called Important Dates in the History of Ireland. Check it out. Circa 140 AD, Ptolemy's Geographia provides the earliest known written reference to habitation in the Dublin area, referring to a settlement of the area as Elblana Savatus. If you're already a subscriber to the Olde Scot YouTube channel and enjoy the variety of interesting videos and podcasts that we produce weekly, then you should join us on the Olde Scot Facebook group. Not only do you get all the great videos you already enjoy, but so much more. Come and connect with your Celtic community here on Olde Scot Facebook group. Welcome to Learn a Gaelic Song. Today's song is Bry Lachel by Rachel Walker. The tune to this song in English is Braes of Lochale, which was composed by Hamish Henderson and Blair Gallery after World War II during the folk music revival. The song's text was built up by William Matheson, who did so from a variety of sources, and it was arranged here by Alan Henderson and, of course, recorded by Rachel Walker. So, remember, Gaelic's at the top, English is at the bottom. Get ready.
O heit mi harish guhinish numbo Varan kyo for haned ido vaho Sa heriri ohi hoiden no gu ohi lo vaho Guhinish numbo Varan kyo for haned Varan bifiag san langan ilio vaho Sna heriri ohi hoiden no gu ohi lo vaho Gubraia lochiel Varan bifiag san langan Esrapag nan stuk Halo voyanga ilio Sarapag ng stuk Alo voyangad Efena no tre Guyam hein good mov yamak Ilio vaho Sa heriri ohi Hoiden no gu ohi lo vaho Efena no tre Guyam hein good mov yamak Get this angan ilovaho snahedidi ahi oiden noku ahi ilovaho snahedidi ahi oiden noku ahi
Scottish Gaelic is native to the Gaels of Scotland. Scottish Gaelic developed out of the Old Irish, and learning this beautiful language can be a direct link to your Gaelic ancestors. Follow along in Feuchamaich Beagan Gaidhlig, and like I said, let's try a little Gaelic. Fáilte ye Old Scots, the beginner's Gaelic course. Kimra hula dunya, how is everyone? Looky there, you already know how to say welcome to and how is everyone. Alright, in the next 25 lessons of Feuchamaich Beagan Gaidhlig, that's Let's Try a Little Gaelic, with a little work you can gain a rudimentary understanding of the Scottish Gaelic language. Now, these lessons were taken from my weekly podcast beginning back on May 15th of 2020, so if you like you can listen to them there as well. But please remember that I am not an authority on the Gaelic language. I just love learning it. I struggle like most all learners, and so what I teach comes right from well-respected Gaelic teachers. I hope you find it interesting, informative, and fun, and as always, I display on the screen what I'm discussing so you can follow along. Alright, Kersh Maha, which means, alright then, let's get started. Beginner's Gaelic lesson, and we're with lesson 21, getting close to the end here, and by now you should have a rudimentary idea of how to put together a sentence, whichever tense you decide to do it in. So we're going to work on some vocabulary. Alright, now Kuvna, memory. Kuvnik, remember. A Kuvnik, remembering. Kuvnik, me. Kuvnik me, I remembered. Chado Kuvnik me, I did not remember. Ha Kuvni akam Mari, I remember Mary. Or literally, memory is at me on Mary. Ha Kuvni akam ora, I remember her. Ha Kuvni aka eka ora, he remembers her. Ha Kuvni akam anku, I remember the dog. Gia Kuvnik, forget. Na Gia Kuvnik, don't forget. He Kuvnik, me, I forgot. Mianach. Ooh, that's a good one. Mianach, yawning. Wow. Ella, another. Dunya Ella, another man. Kus, too much or too many. Kus biak, too much food. Becken, a wee bit or little. Becken biak, a little food. Morning, a lot or much. Morning biak, much food. Goon, which without. Goon biak, without food. No means or. Lar, book. Dream, a bite. Ach iansagug, learning. Jerik, just. Ach isha, eating. Pok, kiss. And kora, sheep. Alright, some of those you've heard before, but I probably need them for the sentences at the end, so we're going to give you a few examples of how to incorporate these into a sentence. We're going to begin with Ha'imku akisha kus bieg. The dog is eating too much food. Va and cat ach ichia chirlakrim. The cat was eating just a bite. Karo achlaun ach yonsagig. The children were not learning. Avel and chlaun ach yonsagig vonen lar. The children are the children learning from the book? Alright. So we're going to move on. It's the end. We're going to do the 6 sentences, give you a little bit of practice, looking these things up, figuring these things out. Alright. Kuvnech do vaher. 2. Na giachuvnik misha marak. 3. Giachuvnik mia chora vek afokig. 4. Kersenahau amenek. 5. Anro uak aheli lesh and dunya ela. 6. Vami akihya kusbieg arar. Alright.
Get honey moners na glamef, gaan je behondrisch na verf. Gunduk me ma watch ma jelle nacht janin ma jel me gel. Kusum fein hein or shallig, ma gestje shalak en a jelle. Va ma lama naun, va ma laman Hachian me shetan ayal kepeko ikamrat Hamagulrit life sahas dog and iches jeshikavel Fotguma vatske fotgwayev Zurchain nas and havo Vamalaman Vamalaman Valatau Marun macht nam raschleg Tjeke chumig se gwalilene Chudashidre ferlin Bevor merabs as talai vrevig Bjarlum gunjanin bjarshrerut Chadjamishin gulameke Vamalamanam Vamalaman Boyach Barelas Valatau Good hemen and takas the behoorstelle dolke fire Gemischte fas en kot is veilig de vlechtig Strichke wa min krip de vrachgein An natje nacht bekach gar feichgein Vamalaman Vamalaman Boyach Barelas Valatau Mare shemarun angilja vareiren jelane kilja Bel melchere chore vilish gav me mechet liet zelini Sukshet mohulen shilek Gaslan ganjalu chilek Vamalaman Vamalaman Boyach Barelas Valatau Vamalaman Boyach Barelas Valatau
Celtic history brings you the tales of the land, castles, warriors, heroes, legends, and customs that have created the rich, vibrant, and sometimes strange and wonderful history of the Celtic world. Confessions of Isobel Gowdie, Part 2. Worn down by the pressures of interrogation and hoping for leniency, the poor woman, Isobel Gowdie, is likely to have told them whatever they wanted to hear. Recent psychology studies into the phenomenon of false confession show that people can develop false memories. Fatigue and sleep deprivation impair decision-making and increase suggestibility. Simply changing the way a question is asked can succeed in influencing a person's memory of an actual event. Memories may become implanted, and the suspect may begin to believe the confession him or herself. Extended sleep deprivation can lead to hallucinations, at which point the interrogators would take this as evidence that the accused was in league with the devil. Now, it is likely that Isobel may have developed false memories of having performed some of the crimes alleged against her. Consequently, Isobel's confession contained many of the standard witch confession epitomes of the time, such as claiming to have had made a pact with the devil, or performing harmful magic or maleficium, and attending the witch's Sabbath. These aspects of her confession are likely to have been derived from leading questions by the prosecution. However, parts of Isobel's confession are so unique, so vivid and personalized, that they could only have come from Isobel herself. While some of her confession is rich in folkloric detail, for example, her descriptions are dominated by maleficum or the use of malicious magic, following many of the standard rituals found in other witch trials. She attempted to destroy her neighbor, Breedley's crops, by taking a child's body from the grave and using it as part of an incantation. However, her account of spoiling crops using a puttock or a frog plow so that afterwards only thistles and briars would grow is unique. Like many other witches, Isobel claimed to have performed image magic, where she used effigies of the Laird of Park's male offspring to cause them harm, death, or suffering. Where she differed from other trials is in the extensive detail of how she kneaded the clay for the figure. She would say she kneaded it very hard like rye meal, and then she gave it her all. All of the marks and parts of a child were included in the clay figures, such as heads, eyes, nose, hands, foot, mouth, even little lips. And that the hands of it folded down by its side like a scone or a suckling pig, she said. The effigies were then burnt and a chant recited. Maleficium was also directed at the minister of Aldern, Harry Forbes, with spells being invoked to inflict illness and torture on the man. Harry Forbes, it seems, was a religious zealot with a fear of witchcraft. Shortly after his arrival in Aldern in 1655, he had confided in Alexander Brodie, the main landlord in the area, that he had been the victim of witchcraft. A surge in awareness of witchcraft, as recorded in the diaries of Brodie throughout the area, seems to coincide with his arrival, and then seems to have dissipated after his departure in 1663. Now, Harry Forbes was present at all of Isobel Gowdie's confessions, and it seems all too probable that he was one of the key players in having Isobel indicted. Isobel also claimed to have transformed herself into a jackdaw, and along with other members of her coven who had transformed themselves into cats and hares, visited Alexander Cummings' dye works, where they used knot magic to turn his dye black. Ugh. During her first confession, she gave an account of her first encounter with the devil. She arranged to meet him in the kirk at Aldern at night, naming some of the others who were in attendance, including Janet Breadhead and Margaret Brodie. She said that she renounced her baptism and was rebaptized by the devil, who promptly renamed her Janet. Where she differs from the confessions of others is in the detailing of how the devil put his mark on her shoulder, then sucked her blood. Having admitted to entering into a pact with the devil, she then disclosed that she had carnal relations with him, kissed his behind, and that she met with him in groups as well as her own. This is a standard fare in a witch trial. Where she differs is the salacious details of her encounters with the devil, whom she described as being very cold. Allegedly, he had forked and cloven feet, which he sometimes covered with boots or shoes. Now, perhaps even more remarkable are Isobel's depictions of fairy-related activities. She claimed that she feasted under the local fairy hill, the Downy Hill, the site of an Iron Age fort, with the fairy king and queen, the king being a braw man, well-favored and broad-faced, and the queen, broadly clothed in white linens. She also expressed her fear of the water bulls which she encountered there. Isobel claimed, transformed into the likeness of a crow, she sneaked into the cellars and kitchens of local castles and houses to eat their food, steal ale from barrels, and perform magic rituals. She claimed that she had traveled into the elves' house, where she saw hollow and boss-backed elf boys whittling elf arrowheads, and perhaps more bizarrely of that, she and her companions charmed corn straws and windle straws into horses, and then crying, "Horse and haddock in the devil's name," flew through the air, shooting elf arrows at passerbys. As they had no bows, the arrows were fired using a flick of the thumb. Isobel claimed that her coven had killed with these arrows, as death was inevitable if struck by one of them. Throughout her dramatic testimony, Isobel recounts no less than 27 charms, the majority of which are unique in British folklore. She chronicles instances of sickness transferal, where an individual is cured by diverting their illness into someone or something else. Isobel describes a ritual whereby a sickness is diverted from a bewitched child into a cradle belt and finally into a cat or a dog. Some have suggested that Isobel Gowdie may have been a magical practitioner, with her claims to have performed charms and rituals to cure fevers and broken bones, signifying that she functioned as some kind of wise woman, who in the absence of doctors saw to the medical needs of the poor. It is conceivable that Isobel may have performed some of her magical rites through the medium of dream or trance, in a manner that can be loosely termed as shamanic, though it could be that Isobel's more fantastic claims were memories of shamanic acts undertaken prior to arrest that were retrieved during interrogation and mingled with folkloric belief, demonological stereotype, and real-life experience to form the complex picture that became her testimony. Remember, she had gone through a very intense interrogation, lots of sleep deprivation, so that mixed with all this information in her mind could perform and produce some powerful hallucinations. Now, after at least 6 grueling weeks of incarceration and interrogation, the panel of interrogators felt that they had secured enough evidence to secure a conviction against Isobel Gowdie. They applied to the Privy Council in Edinburgh seeking a commission of judiciary for a local trial to be held. Isobel's confessions, as well as those of Janet Bredhead, were sent with the request, according to Wilby. It is probable that the confessions arrived in Edinburgh during the middle of June 1662. The register for the Privy Council for July contains an entry instructing the sheriffs of Nairn, Sir Hugh Campbell of Calder, to arrange local trials for both women. Now, there is no record of Isobel being executed, although it is not unusual. In 90% of Scottish witch trials, the outcome is unknown as the records no longer exist. It seems likely that Isobel Gowdie and Janet Bredhead would have been found guilty at a local trial held in mid-July. Following the verdict, they would have been transported by cart to Gallow Hill on the outskirts of Nairn, where they would have been strangled and burnt. The burning of the deceased body was to ensure that no post-mortem sorcery could occur. The execution would have been a public affair, with the whole community forced to attend. During the course of her confession, Isobel Gowdie implicated another 12 people as witches, the members of her coven. Janet Bredhead implicated 3 times as many people as Isobel, though. What happened to these wretches, we'll never know. We do know that Isobel's husband was not involved, with Isobel declaring that she left a broom in the bed. Isobel Gowdie has passed into both legend and history, and yet there are some who say that she is the Green Lady who still haunts the area around Aldern today. I'm sure that her fantastically horrific detailed confessions were a shock to those interrogating her, as most witches brought to trial were condemned on flimsy and manufactured evidence. Isobel Gowdie gave her interrogators volumes of evidence against her, and the names of her entire coven, She gave her interrogators details into witchcraft as if she was bragging about her abilities. She was unapologetic even unto death, which sent shivers down the spines of the church leadership, who thought they may have just witnessed a woman in league with Satan, for real.
Could
Everyday Celtic Ways brings you the mythology, traditions, and customs that have created a unique and personal culture that still affects those that are Celtic and those that just love the Celtic world. The problems with myth and legends. In my inquiries about myth and legends in the Celtic world, I have noticed that every region has their own myth or legend. The Celtic world is steeped in actual phenomenon and harbingers of doom and evil like druids, witches, sorcerers, and the like. So it is easy to see why a tight-knit society would create these creatures and beings. The creation of a creature could be as simple as a cautionary tale to keep children away from a forest or a moor that exhibited real-life dangers to them, or it could be a way to explain an event that is reasonably unexplainable. Religions of the world stem from a basic human instinct like this to coalesce around a central governing authority, an entity to give them order and a sense of their place in the world. When we create or formulate a mythological creature, we're doing the very same thing. We are trying to give order to a place or problem where none exists. Now, I'm not saying these myths and legends aren't true. What I'm saying is that though they scare us, they serve a purpose, and they keep us safe. If there was an actual creature of Celtic mythology living in the forest behind your house, you wouldn't even go outside for the fear of being killed or worse. Now, I've noticed that the myths and legends of a particular region tend to take on the attributes of that region in which they exist. For example, you'll see lots of sea creatures near lochs and seas, forest creatures near the forest, and so on. But every once in a while, one will defy that criteria, like the Nucklevy or the Shellycoat. Now, the reason I tell you all this is there's a little bit of history that goes untold. And once a soldier under the command of the Marquis of Montrose was asked to take a shortcut through a forest in order to get a message to reinforcements. Now, the young soldier refused because he was told as a boy that the Gilly Dhu lived in that forest and he could come to harm. Montrose tried to explain how most of those myths aren't really true, using the same logic that I had done just above, The young soldier replied, "Most?" Now, Montrose was forced to capitulate that out of all the myths and legends out there, a few must be true. Then the young soldier asked a very simple question. Can you say the Gilly Dhu isn't real? And Montrose, who had become increasingly frustrated with this young man, had to admit that he could not and let someone else take the message. Kind of a cool little tidbit of history, I thought.
Man bogelige
Shimora Karaine Vanish Morak Shimor Raine Vanish Anam Shimorak Shimora Shimora Karaine Vanish Morak Shimora Karaine Vanish Anam Morak Shimor Shimora Karaine Vanish Morak Shimor Raine Vanish Anam Shimorak Shimora Shimora Karaine Vanish Morak Shimora Karaine Vanish Anam.
Top 11 Heritage. Now remember to check out my YouTube channel. It's got Celtic music, podcasts, Gaelic language, Gaelic song, Celtic history videos, plus lots more. And my Facebook group where you can give me your inputs and insights on all things Celtic.
Goodbye, Apple Baby. Masha Weave.
Goodbye, everybody. But I'm going to let you go with a song.